Good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television News tonight. Our hope is that you had yourselves a productive Tuesday. Now here's a sneak peek of our edition. The government of Rwanda has stated that it will continue to work with investors who own factories, as it has been established that they are operating at only 30% capacity. Users of electric motorcycles and vehicles in the city of Kigali are requesting for more charging stations. On the international scale, the United Arab Emirates has announced its withdrawal from the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and OPEC Plus, effective as of May 1st, 2026. We are coming to you live straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Martina Abera. Now, the government of Rwanda has stated that it will continue to work with investors who own factories, as it has been established that they are operating at only 30% capacity. This will be explored to increase their capacities so that they can compete with international industries and also become self-sufficient at a time when the world is facing the effects of war. Owners of factories that manufacture materials used in construction say that although the whole world is being affected by the impact of the Iran-Israel war, along with the United States, at times there has been a shortage of materials they used to import. However, the government of Rwanda has helped them explore ways of finding homegrown solutions, enabling them to continue working as usual because they now manufacture many of the materials in Rwanda. Entrepreneurs who own factories, including those that process agricultural products and those that manufacture items used in daily life, such as chairs and others, say many of these products were also imported, but the government has supported them in a way that enables them to meet the demand of the Rwandan market. However, they are requesting that for basic materials that need to be imported, the government should ease taxes for them. During a recent press briefing, the Prime Minister, Dr. Justin Nsengiyumva, observed there is still a gap in the operations of factories in Rwanda, where a factory is found to be operating at only 30% capacity. Prime Minister Nsengiyumva said that as the government, they are going to look at ways of linking factory owners with banks so that they can be facilitated in accessing loans. They will enable Rwandan industries to provide solutions that meet the country's needs and also compete on the international market. Industries in Rwanda continue to develop with a focus on processing agricultural and livestock products, the mineral trade materials used in construction, and others. The government of Rwanda has set a target of increasing the contribution of industry to GDP to 33% by 2050. Users of electric motorcycles and vehicles in the city of Kigali are requesting for more charging stations. The Ministry of Infrastructure has assured them that within the next 2 months, this issue will have been resolved across Rwanda. Users of electric motorcycles and vehicles say using them has many benefits. However, they are requesting the construction of more charging stations to make their journeys easier. An expert in electric vehicles, François-Régis Irareba, says Rwanda has recorded a high rate of adoption of these vehicles compared with other countries that started using them earlier. He is calling on the government to continue working with their private sector to remove the remaining challenges. The Chief Technical Advisor in charge of transport at the Ministry of Infrastructure, Alfred Byiringiro, has assured the public that in partnership with the private sector, a solution is being sought to the issue of charging stations across Rwanda. Figures from the Ministry of Infrastructure show that Rwanda has so far registered more than 50,000 electric motorcycles, 29,000 of which are used as taxis. Electric vehicles in general have continued to increase, both for private use and public transport. Moving ahead, the Chinese embassy in Rwanda has held a press briefing during which the fruits of Rwanda-China relations were discussed, particularly in development activities, trade, and infrastructure. The health sector is also among those that have benefited immensely from China-Rwanda relations. Examples include the construction of the University Teaching Hospital of Kigali. During the briefing, cooperation in the education sector was also discussed, as well as capacity building for those in the technology sector, with particular emphasis on promoting the use of artificial intelligence. The Chinese ambassador to Rwanda, His Excellency Gao Wenki, noted that besides the cooperation in various sectors, the two countries will also continue to work together in finding solutions to challenges facing the region and the world in general. The Minister of Gender and Family Promotion, Console Uwimana, has reminded the public that fighting genocide ideology is everyone's responsibility so that genocide never happens again. She made the remarks during an event that is part of the 32nd commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, which brought together various ministries and institutions here in Kigali. The event was presided by a visit to the Kigali Genocide Memorial at Gisozi. It brought together the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion, the Ministry of Youth and Arts, the Rwanda Elders Advisory Forum, the National Women's Council, the National Child Development Agency, and Rwanda Cooperation Initiative. The Vice President of Ibuka, Christine Muhongaire, spoke about the importance of remembrance as a way of honoring the Tutsi who were killed in the preceding decades and years, as well as during the actual genocide against the Tutsi. Ambassador François-Xavier Ngarambe, who delivered a presentation, observed that genocide is a political crime that is planned and implemented by bad leaders, and that fighting it must therefore be based on good politics. On her part, the Minister of Gender and Family Promotion spoke about female leaders who played a major role in the genocide against the Tutsi, saying this should serve as a lesson to the country's current leaders, who should teach young people the importance of the unity and resilience that now exists among Rwandans and ensure that they practice what they preach. During the event, former employees of the various ministries and institutions that participated who were killed in the genocide against the Tutsi were also remembered. One of the most tragic aspects of the genocide against the Tutsi was the international community's failure to prevent the atrocities, or at least try to stop the massacres once they had begun. As Rwanda concluded the National Week of Mourning earlier this month, our colleague Adam Squizera prepared the following feature story delving into the matter.
Flags are flown at the half-mast across Rwanda. Commemorative activities are taking place nationwide from April to July. The entire nation mourns the victims of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. The tragedy claimed over 1 million lives in just 100 days. This was the fastest genocide in the world history.
Also gave a warning to people that we were aware that these frictions could lead to something catastrophic, but nobody really believed it. My assessments were, and that's in the report I wrote and what the actions I wanted to take, the assessments from the political side of the mission had a different perspective. They thought I was overreacting. New York was busy with Yugoslavia and so on, so there was not a sufficient assessment of the reality that we had on the ground, no matter how many times I wrote them and called and discussed and so on.
The world's response was tragically inadequate. The international community's failure to intervene or even to prevent the genocide laid bare in shortcomings. The promise of never again was left unfulfilled.
In January 1994, the command of United Nations mission in Rwanda sent a fax back to headquarters in New York with detailed intelligence that in Interahamwe were stockpiling weapons and compiling lists of Tutsis to be killed. He was then ordered to share the information with the very government which was preparing the genocide and to take no further action. The technology existed to disrupt the radio broadcasts that directed the killings. The planes capable of jamming those signals were available. Officials even calculated the hourly cost of the mission. In the end, the operation was deemed to be too expensive and potentially also a violation of Rwanda's sovereignty. So the cost was more it became too expensive. It was more expensive, especially when in their minds those lives are really worthless.
Failure of the international community was starkly evident at the former Etoti Chutiro, now IPRC Kigali. Thousands of Tutsi have sought shelter there, trusting that peacekeepers would protect them, only to be abandoned.
At Eto Kichukiro, when the peacekeepers withdrew, thousands of desperate Tutsi were left to die. Such scenes were repeated across the country. If these forces had instead been supported to protect Rwandans, the killers could have been deterred and many people would still be alive. The lives saved by the United Nations peacekeepers who were allowed to remain makes clear how much more could have been done with political will. Even as the killings accelerated, the language used to describe what was happening itself became a matter of calculation.
Maniraho Ernest was among thousands of Tutsi who sought refuge at Etoti Chutiro. For him, the journey of suffering began a 15-minute walk from Kagarama, where his family lived, to St. Joseph Parish, just before reaching Etoti Chutiro.
Ababyeyi baraganiriye hanyuma baza gufata icyemezo yuko tugomba guhongera hano kuri paruwasi ya Kicukiro.
Parents held discussions and decided that we should seek refuge here at Chichuchiro Parish at the time. However, not all of us left home together. Some went to Center Christus in Remera, while others came here. When we arrived, we found this hall already full, packed with people from different places. That's when they took us to a room at the back of this hall, where we stayed.
Twebwe batujyanye mu kumba k'inyuma kari ko muri no sare abariho tuba.
Maniraho Ernest and family members thought Etoti Chutiro was a symbol of life, the area hosting United Nations peacekeeping troops, The mission was known as United Nations Assistance Mission for Rwanda, UNAMIL.
Umuhanda twanyuze ni inzira twaciyemo turimo kuza hano muri Eto nyirizina. Hari akarembo gatoya kari hepfo ariko twinjiriyemo kugira ngo tugere hano muri
The road we used was the path through which we entered Eto Chichuchiro. There was a small gate down there where we came in. To reach this road, we had to climb up where I am standing now, and this is where the main gates to the compound were located. There was a checkpoint manned by UNAMIL soldiers, and at first, they refused us in. When they turned us away, we went back and stayed on the football pitch. People kept pleading with them to allow us in, and later in the afternoon, they finally agreed. But first they checked us, and after that they let us in.
Hamaze gucya ubona mu masaha y'icamunsi nibwo batwemereye turaza tugeze hano mu marembo baradusaka. Minwari iradusaka, imaze kudusaka iratureka turinjira. Ahangaha mpagaze neza niho ayo marembo yarari. Twarinjiye tumaze kuhagera dusanga no mashuri ayangaya mureba hano.
We found school buildings overcrowded with people. That's where we stayed, while UNAMIL personnel were positioned over there. Many people had come from other areas like Kareza, Niboi, and Gatenga. In the following days, more people kept arriving, including some who had been injured, among them my cousin. They took him to receive first aid at a small clinic over there.
Ndibuka ko hari na mukuru wanjye wo kwa mama wacu rutuye mu Gatenga yinjiyemo hano bamaze kumutema. Icyo gihe bahise bamufata bajya kumuha ubuvuzi bw'ibanze. Hariya ndumva kuri rino shuri harimo ahantu binjiriramo hagati harimo akavuriro.
For those who are taking refuge at the Chichuchiro, April 11th remains an indelible memory. It was a day that starkly demonstrated how human lives were treated as less valuable than animals. On that day, Belgian Union peacekeepers troops evacuated with their dogs in vehicles, leaving the refugees behind in the hands of Interahamwe militias. Who died Marie Rose, who was 20 years at that time. The image of that moment has stayed with her for years and will never fade from her memory.
Mu gitondo cy'itariki 11 niho nshaka kugera itariki yatubabaje, itariki mbese twaburiyeho isi yatuhindukanye, twese tuhinduka nk'ibishushungwe.
On the morning of the 11th, the day that deeply traumatized us, when it felt like the world had turned against us, we were all in shock when we learned that Minwar was going to leave us. We all started screaming. They had already packed up their belongings, while the Interahamwe had surrounded the entire compound and had begun firing into the air.
Tugenda tugwira tuba benshi baravuga ngo yewe ngo Minwari igiye kudusiga. Twese twavugije induru tuti Minwari igiye kudusiga, tuti bati bagiye kugenda, bati bamaze no gufunga ibintu byabo, bati turagowe, bati ubwo dutabaze mu ijuru, bati Uwiteka ze kutwagira, bati kubera ko naho Interahamwe zari inyuma y'iki kiko zinjiyemo baratangira barasa mu kirere. Noneho
at the same time, the Minwar soldiers were loading their equipment and even their dogs into military trucks. We all cried out in fear. Parents began to weep. I was 20 years old at the time, crying and asking my mother, "What are we going to do now?" The mothers were crying too. It was complete chaos and despair.
turagenza dute mama ati bane banje muragira ngo mbasubize iki, ati se ati muragira ngo tujye hehe, ati se n'aba mama batangira kurira ibintu birivanga.
Victims of the Eto Chichuchiro massacre are laid to rest at the Nyanza Genocide Memorial. Every April 11th, the nation gathers here to remember and reflect.
Dufite umutekano ugenda isaha yari yose ushakiye, amasaha yari yose.
Today, we have security at any time and can go wherever we want, which was not possible back then. I am grateful to the government for providing us with that security. They paid for our education, helped us study, and continue to support our daily lives. The Inhotanyi are alive, and we are still grateful to them, because without them, we would not be alive today. They were helped by God so that we could survive. God enabled them, and through that,
Inhotanyi ni ubuzima, kandi inkotanyi turacyakomeza kuzishimira kuko iyo zitabaho ntabwo twari kuba tukiriho ubu ngubu. Zafashijwe n'Imana kugira ngo tubeho, Imana irazishoboza natwe tubaho.
Yet many perpetrators still walk free, finding refuge in countries that claim to uphold human rights and justice. Survivors continue to seek accountability. The continued inability to dismantle the FDLR, a group rooted in genocide ideology, serves as a stark reminder on the ongoing challenges. It reflects the harsh reality that the world still has much to learn from past failures in addressing such threats and ensuring lasting peace. This underscores the urgent need to stand up against hate speech and extremism, fostering a collective commitment to prevent history from repeating itself.
Should understand that the danger of moral passivity in the face of hatred and violent extremism. We should understand that danger, especially in the face of hatred and violent extremism. Africans, more than most, we must be reminded by all this history. Today, our continent accounts for the majority of the world's active conflicts. In 1994, Africa's collective institutions also failed to respond. I say this because the call for African sovereignty, legitimate and necessary as it is, must also mean that African institutions act decisively when Africans are at risk. Bad actors must not be allowed to hide behind the principle of sovereignty, to evade responsibility for abuses or deny citizens their rights. We cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past. Genocide ideology is still spreading in our region. Left unchecked, it has the power to take us all backwards again.
The commemorative activities at Nyanza on April 11th each year serve as a powerful call to action. They remind the international community that the pledge to never again must be translated into concrete, meaningful action. It is a solemn reminder that the world must unite in the face of evil to prevent history from repeating itself.
Ntibizongera ukundi.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again. Plus jamais.
Nunca mais.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
Kamwe tena. Twibuke, twiyubaka.
To The end of tonight's bulletin. On behalf of the news production team and the technical team, thank you for sticking with us here on RTV News. My name is Martina Abera, and until next time, stay safe and have a good night.